My friend insisted I drop everything to help her move, guilt-tripping me with, "I'd do it for you." When I said no, she blocked me and told others I was a fake friend. Months later, she reappeared asking for money. I laughed and said, "Some things never change." I never imagined that a simple favor could unravel a friendship I had cherished for years. But life has a way of revealing people's true colors when you least expect it. I met Sarah during our freshman year at the University of California, Berkeley. We were both wide-eyed 18-year-olds, navigating the challenges of college life. Our bond formed quickly over late-night study sessions at Moffett Library, shared meals at the dining hall, and weekend explorations of the Bay Area. We laughed together, cried on each other's shoulders, and became more like sisters than friends. After graduation, our paths diverged. I secured a position at a tech startup in San Francisco, immersing myself in the fast-paced world of Silicon Valley. Sarah, on the other hand, pursued her passion for journalism, landing a job at a small newspaper in Los Angeles. Despite the distance, we made it a point to keep in touch. Phone calls, video chats, and occasional visits kept our friendship alive. We celebrated each other's successes and provided support during challenging times. One Thursday evening, as I was wrapping up a project at work, my phone buzzed with an incoming call from Sarah. Seeing her name brought a smile to my face, and I eagerly answered. "Hey, stranger." I greeted her. "What's new?" "Hey, I have some exciting news," Sarah replied, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. "I've been offered a position at a major publication in San Francisco. I'll be moving there next weekend." "That's amazing, Sarah. Congratulations," I exclaimed, genuinely thrilled for her. "We'll finally be in the same city again." "I know, right? It's going to be just like old times," she said. "But here's the thing. I need some help with the move. Can you come down to LA next weekend to help me pack and drive up to San Francisco?" Her request caught me off guard. The timing couldn't have been worse. I had a critical project deadline approaching at work, and my parents were celebrating their 30th wedding anniversary with a family gathering that same weekend. "Sarah, I'd love to help, but next weekend is really packed for me," I began, choosing my words carefully. "I have a major deadline at work, and there's a family event I can't miss. Maybe you could hire movers? Once you're in San Francisco, I'd be more than happy to help you settle in." There was a pause on the other end of the line. When Sarah spoke again, her tone had shifted. "I would have done it for you," she said softly, a hint of disappointment in her voice. Guilt began to creep in. Sarah had always been there for me during our college years. But I also knew that compromising my responsibilities wasn't feasible. "I know, and I truly appreciate that," I replied. "I wish I could be there for you, but this weekend is just impossible. Let's plan something once you're settled in. We can celebrate your new job and catch up." "Fine," she said curtly. "I'll figure it out." Before I could respond, she ended the call. I stared at my phone, a mix of emotions swirling within me. I hoped that with time, she'd understand my predicament. The following days were eerily silent. Sarah, who was usually active on social media, hadn't posted anything about her move or new job. Concerned, I reached out with a text. "Hey Sarah, just checking in. How's the move coming along? Let me know if you need anything." No response. I tried calling her, but my calls went straight to voicemail. Confused and worried, I reached out to a mutual friend, Jessica. "Hey Jess, have you heard from Sarah lately? I've been trying to get in touch, but she's not responding." There was a brief pause before Jessica replied. "Yeah, I've talked to her. She mentioned that you refused to help her move and that she felt abandoned." I was taken aback. "Abandoned?" I explained to her that I had prior commitments. I wanted to help, but the timing was impossible. "I get it," Jessica said sympathetically. "But she's been telling people that you let her down when she needed you the most." Hearing this felt like a punch to the gut. I valued our friendship deeply and never intended to hurt her. I decided to give her some space, hoping she'd come around once the stress of the move subsided. Weeks turned into months. Sarah's silence remained unbroken. I occasionally saw her posts on social media, indicating she had settled into her new job and life in San Francisco. The city felt smaller, knowing she was nearby yet so distant. Then, one evening, as I was preparing dinner, my phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from Sarah. Subject: Hey, I know it's been a while. I hope you're doing well. I'm in a bit of a bind and was wondering if you could lend me $2,000. I promise to pay you back as soon as I can. Sarah, I read the email twice, disbelief washing over me. After months of silence and being labeled a bad friend, she was now reaching out for financial assistance? I took a deep breath and composed my response. Subject: Hey Sarah, it's surprising to hear from you after all this time. I recall our last conversation didn't end on the best terms. Now, after months of silence, you're asking for financial help? I'm sorry, but I can't assist you with this. I hope you find the support you need. Best, your name. I hit send, a sense of finality settling over me. It was painful to acknowledge, but perhaps our friendship had run its course. People change, and sometimes relationships evolve in unexpected ways. Sarah never responded, and we haven't spoken since. The experience taught me valuable lessons about boundaries, expectations, and the true essence of friendship. While I cherish the memories we shared, I've come to understand that mutual respect and understanding are the cornerstones of any lasting relationship. A few weeks passed after I sent that email to Sarah. I didn't think much of it. I figured she would move on, maybe feel embarrassed, maybe not. Either way, I had my own life to worry about. But then, things got weird. It started with a phone call from my mom. She lives down in San Jose, about an hour from me. "Did you lend someone money recently?" she asked out of nowhere. "No, why?" "Well, I got a call from a woman who said you were helping her out with rent, and she needed to confirm some details for a payment transfer." My stomach dropped. Wait, what? Did she say her name? She said her name was Sarah, but I didn't give her anything. "I just told her to call you directly." I thanked my mom and hung up, heart pounding. That didn't make sense. Sarah hadn't responded to my last message, and I definitely hadn't agreed to send her any money. Why was she calling my mom? Then it escalated. One of my coworkers, someone I barely knew outside of team meetings, came up to me during lunch and said, "Hey, random question. I got a weird message on Instagram from someone named Sarah saying you two were best friends and that you're helping her out financially. Something about needing references for a loan?" It just seemed odd. My blood ran cold. Sarah was contacting people in my circle. People I never even told her about. I had no idea how she found them, but she did. And now she was dragging my name into things I wanted no part of. I messaged her immediately. "Sarah, stop. Whatever game you're playing, cut it out. Don't call my family, don't contact my coworkers. This is completely out of line." No reply. Of course. But 2 days later, I got a direct message from an unknown number. It was a screenshot of a Facebook post from a community group in San Francisco. In it, Sarah had written a long, dramatic message saying she was betrayed by someone she once trusted with her life, that she was left with nothing in a new city, and that this person had refused to help even when it was life or death. She didn't name me, but anyone who knew us or had even seen us tagged in photos together would connect the dots. People were commenting things like, "What kind of friend is that? And you deserve better, girl." I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. I wasn't angry. I was furious. I had done nothing wrong. I had simply said no when I couldn't drop everything to help someone move. And now, I was being dragged through the mud in public, turned into some villain in her twisted story. I didn't respond. I didn't post anything. I just sat there and stewed in a mixture of disbelief and anger. A few days later, I got another email. This one was even more surreal. "Hey again. I didn't mean for things to get out of hand. I was just really stressed. I'm in a bit of trouble right now. I need help with something just for a short time. You're the only person I can ask. Please." That's all it said. No explanation. No apology. Just another ask for help. I didn't even write back this time. But the story didn't stop there. A week later, I got a letter in the mail from a collections agency. It was addressed to me, but it wasn't my debt. It listed an account I'd never opened, with a phone number attached. I called the agency, confused and panicked. "This isn't mine," I said. "I've never had an account with your company." After a few minutes of verifying, the rep told me the account had been opened under my name and email, but with a different phone number and a different address, Sarah's address. My stomach turned. She used my identity. It wasn't a lot of money, just under $500, but it didn't matter. It was fraud. I filed a report with the police. I gave them everything. Emails, texts, the letter, even screenshots of the Facebook post. But getting action on something like that? It takes time. And stress. And endless calls. I started locking down everything. Credit freeze. Two-factor authentication. I deleted old accounts I hadn't touched in years. I even called my bank just to make sure nothing else was lurking. The betrayal was like a bruise that wouldn't fade. Every time I thought it couldn't get worse, something else happened. And the worst part? I still didn't know why. Was this revenge for not helping her move? Was it desperation? Or had she always been like this and I just never saw it? Then, one night, I got a knock on my apartment door. Not a package. Not a neighbor. A knock, slow and heavy. When I opened it, no one was there. But sitting on the welcome mat was a torn photo. It was one of our old college pictures, me and Sarah, arms around each other, smiling like the world hadn't touched us yet. Only now, her face had been scratched out with something sharp. I looked around the hallway, heart pounding, but it was empty. I brought the photo inside, locked the door, and sat down, clutching it in my hand. I stared at the jagged lines over her face and thought, what the hell happened to you? The scratched photo rattled me more than I wanted to admit. I tried to tell myself it was a coincidence. Maybe someone else left it. Maybe it wasn't even her. But deep down, I knew better. That picture had been in my private album. Not posted online. Not shared with anyone. She had to have taken it from my apartment years ago, back when we were still friends. I hadn't even realized it was missing. That night, I didn't sleep. Every creak in my apartment made me jump. I kept checking the door, double-checking the locks, peeking through the peephole like some paranoid ghost. The next morning, I called the police again and told them about the photo. They filed a report, but that was it. No direct threat, ma'am, they said. Keep your doors locked. Let us know if she contacts you again. That wasn't much comfort. For the next few days, everything was quiet. No emails. No calls. No weird knocks. I tried to go back to normal, but normal didn't feel real anymore. Every time I walked outside, I scanned the street. Every time I saw a figure in the distance, I squinted, thinking it might be her. Then something happened at work. We had a team all-hands meeting that Friday. I work for a mid-sized software company, nothing fancy, but big enough to be bureaucratic and slow-moving. We were halfway through the meeting when my manager, Dave, looked straight at me and said, "Can you stay back for a quick chat?" My heart dropped. That tone. That look. I knew something was wrong. After everyone left, I sat with him in the conference room. "So," he said, tapping his fingers on the table. "This is awkward. I've had HR come to me with a concern. Apparently, someone submitted an anonymous complaint about you." "What? About what?" I could barely speak. He pulled out a paper. "It says you've been using company resources to run a side business. That you're accessing confidential client data for external use." I stared at him stunned. "What? I don't even know what that means. I would never do that." "I know," he said quickly. "Look, I'm not accusing you. Your record's clean. But we still have to investigate. IT is already doing a sweep of your device. We just have to follow protocol." I felt sick. I went straight to IT and asked if I could speak to the technician handling my case. It was a guy named Brian I'd chatted with before, super quiet, kind of nerdy. I asked him point blank, "Can you tell if someone set me up?" He hesitated. "We're not supposed to talk about ongoing checks, but I'll just say something's off." The complaint mentioned specific timestamps. Someone had to know your calendar, your workflow, even your logins. That's when it hit me. Sarah knew all of that. Years ago, we shared everything. Our passwords, our routines, even how we used to joke about setting up each other's voicemail. I told Brian. I gave him her full name and explained everything, even though it felt like I was unraveling in front of him. He didn't say much, but the next day, he found me again. "I can't officially tell you anything, but off the record, you're not crazy." That was all I needed to hear. Meanwhile, HR kept digging. Every day I showed up to work was like walking a tightrope. Rumors had already started. I heard people whispering in the break room. Someone even asked if I was moonlighting. It was humiliating. Then came the final twist I didn't see coming. One of our clients, an old contact from a real estate company in the Mission District, emailed me directly. It was strange, because I wasn't even managing that account anymore. The email said, "Hey, just a heads up, someone claiming to be your assistant called me. Said you were stepping down and she'd be taking over communications." Sounded fishy. Thought you should know. I called him immediately and got the full story. A woman had called using my full name, claimed to be representing me, and tried to reschedule a private meeting with him at a coffee shop. She said I'd be too busy going forward and that she was my point of contact now. It was Sarah. It had to be. I felt like I was drowning. Every time I surfaced, she found a new way to pull me back under. She was going after my life now, my job, my reputation, even my clients. She wasn't just angry. She was obsessed. And I still didn't know what she wanted. I finally caved and hired a private investigator. I didn't want to. I hated spending the money. But I needed answers. I needed something solid to take to the police before things spiraled any further. When the PI came back 2 weeks later, he had a file for me. Inside were photos, addresses, background info. But one thing stood out. Sarah had been evicted from her last apartment 2 months ago. She never told me that. She'd been couch surfing, living out of temporary rentals, borrowing money from anyone who'd listen. And she had a pattern, friendships that ended in money, accusations, and disappearances. One of her ex-roommates even filed a restraining order against her. Another had changed her number and moved across town just to avoid her. This wasn't about me. Or the move. Or the $2,000. This was something deeper. Something broken. And the worst part? She was still out there. Still watching. Still planning. The confrontation came in the least expected way, during a company event. A casual Friday mixer on the rooftop of our office building. There were fairy lights, cheap wine, everyone in relaxed clothes. It was meant to boost morale, get us to unwind. I had finally started feeling normal again. The HR investigation had ended, formally cleared of all accusations. IT confirmed the login attempts and flagged the device that didn't match my network. Sarah's name never made it into the official report, but I knew it. I had even changed my number, locked everything down. I didn't want to look over my shoulder anymore. Then she showed up. She walked in like she belonged there. Wearing a long black coat, eyes lined with dark makeup, her hair pulled back. She walked past security like she knew the layout. It took me a moment to realize who she was. Some people turned to look. They didn't know her, but something about the energy shifted. A few of my coworkers glanced at me, confused. I froze. She spotted me almost immediately. Her smile was tight, lips pressed into something that barely resembled joy. "Hey," she said. Just that. Like we'd bumped into each other at a coffee shop. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice steady, but my hands already trembling. I could feel my heart thudding against my ribs. "I just wanted to talk." "No, you don't get to just show up here." She shrugged, like she hadn't spent the last 6 months trying to ruin me. Like she hadn't used my name for loans, lied to people, manipulated everyone around her. "You made me into the villain," she said, voice low, sharp. "You told everyone I was crazy. You made them believe I used you." "You did use me," I snapped, stepping closer. "You lied. You tried to steal from me. You called my mother Sarah. You opened fake accounts in my name. You nearly got me fired." A few people nearby turned. Some coworkers stepped back, the hum of the party dulled into awkward silence. Jessica, our mutual friend from college, had been near the snack table. She stared at Sarah now like she was seeing a ghost. "You could have just helped me," Sarah said. "I needed you. And you said no. You left me with nothing." I wanted to scream. I had boundaries. That's not abandonment. That's being an adult. We were friends, not a charity case. Her face twisted. She looked at the crowd watching us and then turned back to me, voice louder now. "You think you're better than everyone? With your job, your little apartment, your fake friends pretending to care about you." I took a breath, stepped back, and let the silence hang there. "Get out," I said. "You're not welcome here. This ends tonight." Jessica stepped forward then. Quiet, steady. "Sarah, you need help. Real help. Not from her. Not from any of us." That broke something. Sarah's expression shifted, from fury to something else, panic, desperation. For a moment, I saw the girl I used to know. She looked small. Like a storm had passed through her and taken everything with it. "I didn't mean for all this," she whispered. But the damage was done. Security finally reached us. Someone had quietly alerted them. They asked her to leave. She didn't fight. She just nodded, shoulders slumped, and walked away. No screaming. No big scene. Just silence. When she was gone, the noise returned. Conversations started up again. But it was thinner now. No one knew exactly what to say. I stood there, shaky, feeling like the last 6 months had exploded in front of me. Jessica touched my arm. "Are you okay?" I nodded, but it was automatic. "I had no idea," she said softly. "I thought she just needed time. I didn't know it had gone that far." I just looked at her. I didn't either. The following week was a blur. HR launched another internal review about the security breach. I had to meet with legal again, file more statements. I found out later Sarah had tried something similar at her new job and was let go. She disappeared from social media after that. I don't know where she is now. I don't think I ever will. But the aftermath lingered. I'd catch myself scanning the street on my walk home. I locked my doors twice at night. I changed my passwords like it was a ritual. The trust one had in people gone. Burned away like paper in a fire. The worst part wasn't what she did. It was that I had loved her like family. For years. And she used that love like a weapon. Friends asked why I didn't press charges. Why I didn't go full scorched earth. I didn't have a good answer. Maybe part of me still remembered the girl from college, the one who stayed up all night helping me study for finals, who cried with me when my grandma died, who once gave me her last $20 so I could buy groceries. Maybe I just wanted to be done. I still think about it. About her. About how thin the line is between need and manipulation, between friendship and control. Would I do anything differently? Maybe. But I learned what I needed to. Now, I carry a little more caution in my chest. A little more space between me and the people who ask too much. And when I hear someone say, "I'd do it for you," I remember. Sometimes, that's the start of the lie. Sometimes, it's the first step off a cliff. But I didn't fall. I walked away. And that's enough for now.